Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Suffer Up Podcast with Nate and Ryan. We are coming at you remote this time. It is just us. We don't have a guest for you today, but we are both on vacation. And so we are having to go ahead and do a recording remotely. So we are Suffer Up. If this is the first time you've listened or watched us, we are just two regular dudes where our mission is to encourage and lead others to suffer with a purpose. We strive to help others level up in life with an emphasis on our three pillars: physical, mental, and spiritual well being. So, thank you so much for listening to today's episode and following along with us on this journey. Before we get started, we always give a shout out to we're going to do it real quick today. Um, our three main sponsors. We have first in the lineup would be Soft Socks, compression fitting toe sock for your feet. We love them, and they have stood up to all of the hard miles that we put on them, both on the trail and off the trail. So if you'd like to try a pair, you can go over to our link tree and click on the link that we have there that is in the description of this podcast and use discount code SUFFER10 to receive 10% off at checkout. Also new to the lineup, and we are really excited about this one, is 55 miles anti-chafing lubricant and blister blocker. We have been using it here in the Florida heat and have really enjoyed it, and it has done a fantastic job at protecting all of these sensitive areas. So get you some 55 miles. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Discount code SUFFER UP. Today, we are going to sit down and talk about just a few things that have been a common trend in both of our journeys, both Ryan and myself as well, and talk more about consistency in training, as well as some lessons that we've learned along the way of just being patient in the process and being consistent with whatever it is that you're training for or trying to accomplish. Um, Ryan is currently working on becoming a running coach. And so I know that this has been in a lot of his curriculum as well. So, Ryan, if you want to open us up on some of the lessons that you've initially learned in this process of consistency.
Yeah, I mean, the main point of this and the biggest lesson of all is just that consistency will always beat intensity. If you're trying to ramp up for a 100-mile race and train for that with 100 days to go, um, you may be able to do it. You may not, but you may be able to do it. But ultimately, it will take a bigger toll on your body and be a lot harder on you to recover from and get back to running and everything after that than if you took a year to prepare for a 100-mile race or anything for that matter. The consistency is always going to beat the intensity. So the longer that you can do something and train for something, the better it's going to be for you long term.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, you know, as far as the consistency factor of it, I think a lot of times, I think you've got like three different categories of people when it comes to, we're talking more specifically about fitness here, but you've got the guy who just doesn't incorporate any fitness into his life whatsoever. And then you got the guy that is like trying to get into like just being more active, just wants to be healthy. And then you have the guy that's like really striving for something, whether that's elite level or just a standard level of just I want to accomplish, this time in a 5K, or I want to finish a 5K. Like they've set a goal for themselves. But the commonality with all of those is just finding a consistent pattern and rhythm and staying with that and just almost trusting the process. Um, I think the compoundingness of it is really what makes a difference.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like we talked about in a recent podcast about trusting the process, and I mean that's really all the consistency comes down to is that you got to trust that it's not just going to be more beneficial for you to the event that you're doing, but long term after that. That's what I was getting at with the 100-mile
Yeah.
example I used there of you may be able to do it, but recovery after that, how quickly your body can bounce back and get back to the speeds that you were running or the distance. And like just overall, your fitness is going to take a big hit from something like that. So if you can strengthen your body and a lot more than just running, like you can do gym workouts and actually build your muscle up, your body will be able to handle that kind of stress on it so much better. But it's like that in everything. It's not just running, it's every piece of life. You know, if you're trying to buy your first house or get a better job, like you're not going to be able to just will your way there uh like instantly or in a month's time. And even if you somehow do get lucky and are able to make that happen, the habits that you would have formed by doing consistent work ahead of time aren't going to be there. So you're going to be in a much riskier, a worse position than you would have put yourself in had you prepared for a long amount of time and been consistent with that work leading up to that moment.
Yeah. No, that's good. And there's a lack of consistency like in our world altogether. Like we kind of bounce between thing to thing to thing. And I think it's also very noble to be consistent, especially when it comes to occupations. I'll use my father-in-law as an example. He did, oh, I don't remember the exact amount of years, but we're gonna say it was roughly 30 years of stocking shelves for Frito-Lay. And I can't imagine doing that same job every day for, he had different routes, of course, and different people, but he was diligent and he
Yeah.
was consistent. He showed up to work every day. And so I think that's oftentimes a lost attribute in today's society of just being consistent with, like you're talking about, buying a house, um, diets, work, occupation, like chasing be loyal is just it's a lost thing. So I think just the word consistency it's a strong word too, and it comes with a lot of responsibility and accountability too of just being there whenever you need to be there. So
Yeah,
I think
100%. I
it's really
mean,
good.
you think about the people that are most consistent in your life, and that word that you use, loyalty, is probably very synonymous with that. Like the people that you think of that are most consistent are also the most loyal, whether it be to their job, to their family, to you as a friend, or, you can depend on them. So consistency is something that goes way broader than fitness, than diets. I mean, it goes to every aspect of your life and will affect it all. Um, so yeah, that's why it's important. Um, for those struggling with consistency, Nate, what one piece of advice would you give to them?
Yeah, no, that's good. And the fact you brought that up too. I've had a few people reach out to me asking like, "Hey, I wanna get in shape." That seems to be what people call me about, but that the the underlying theme was just really consistency, which is why we decided to talk about this. But to answer your question, for those listening as well, I'm big on, and I have preached before of small wins every day. So, any change that you make in your life, if you're trying to make a big change, it starts with a small change. And I've shared this before, but I'll go ahead and share it on here for those listening is I call it just it's a 30-day challenge. There's 30-day, 90-day, 75 hard. There's all these challenges out there, but this one is it seems so simple, but it is oftentimes very difficult for people. And it's 30 minutes of movement every day for 30 days. But it doesn't start with just that movement. It starts with the habit. You have to have and build the habit of doing the thing every single day for those 30 days. Once those 30 days are up, and if you can say, "Yep, every day for 30 days straight, I moved and I did 30 minutes of movement, whether that's walking, running, rucking, whatever. I did it for 30 days straight." Now the train is starting to move. And then once the train starts to move, then you can start adding cars if we want to get all metaphoric on this. And then you can start incorporating lift training and, interval training, high intensity stuff. But for people that are going from couch to 5K, I would just say start with 30 minutes of movement every single day. And then you can start incorporating other things. People that really struggle with even any sort of daily structure, I would tell them, I want you, if your normal time you have to wake up is 6 o'clock, I want you to wake up at 5. And then they ask me like, why? Well, I don't need to be to work till 8. Well, yeah, you're going to get up at 5. You have 30 minutes to yourself to wake up, and then you're going to move from 5:30 to 6. And now you start your day at 6. And now you've had a victory. You've gotten up, you had your breakfast, and you had your coffee, and you went out and you moved for 30 minutes. And then if you can do that
Yeah.
consistently for 30 days, you're now creating habits and pathways that you can build on. And the couple people that I've shared that with, it's really been beneficial to them to do that. So
I love that little wins concept. I don't know that you're waking up an hour early is necessarily the little win for everybody because an hour sounds like a lot to some people, but
yeah,
little wins are little wins. I mean, if you can get up and I've heard people talk about this before where they say, like, I'm going to go to the gym every day. And somebody will just like literally drive to the gym, park there for 2 minutes, and then drive back home. And it's like you didn't do anything at the gym, but you made that consistent effort of like, hey, I got up, put on my gym clothes, drove to the gym. I went, didn't do anything. And I don't recommend that, but they went to the
yeah,
gym or they went in there and did 5 push-ups and then left. It's like I still went. And it's building
hmm,
that habit of those little wins. It's like, hey, you still got up and did the thing. It wasn't to the intensity that you want it to be at, but it's a step in the right direction. It's better than sleeping in, snoozing
yeah,
the alarm and saying, no, not today. Or, if
hmm,
your thing was dieting, you know, you wanted to eat clean all day and you can eat clean for one meal. Like, hey, that's better than not at all, right? You know,
yeah,
that's a win. Or if you normally have dessert every night and you didn't have dessert tonight, well, we still got to work on the rest of the meals throughout the day and the snacking and whatever else it is, but you didn't have dessert. So like check in the box. There you go. That's a little win
yeah,
right away.
yeah. That's true. Yeah, and if we're kind of talking more to like the level of people that are kind of like just trying to get into whatever it is, whether it's losing weight, whether it's finish a 5K, whatever. But something too that I'm learning right now in the current training block for my upcoming 100 miler is my problem is not the consistency of doing the thing every day, because almost every day, with the exception of a couple strategic rest days where I just don't do anything, I'm out there every day doing something, trying to trying to strive for that goal. But you get to a point where you're honestly doing more harm than you are good, and sometimes pulling back just a little bit and kind of learning to listen to your body of like, okay, all right, I did not hit my weekly miles this week, but I did get a really fast tempoed 6 miler into this week. And I got an hour and a half worth of lifting in when normally I lift an hour every week. Like, that's still a win. Like, yeah, my Strava had a little dip or whatever. Like, don't worry about those numbers. Are you being consistent every day? Are you are is every time you show up and put your shoes on, are you present and intentional during that time? If you're not, then you're just kind of wasting your time. Well, you're not wasting your time. You could get way more out of it than what you're putting into it. And so, if you're in that category, I've just had to really be patient with myself and know, like, hey, you're putting in the work, man, and you are getting better, but you also got to give your body time to recover. And even though you feel beat right now, that's okay, because look, you got to look back. And that's where I encourage people to write things down or keep a log of the things that you are doing, because you can look back and be like, wow, look at, I'm actually doing really well. I don't feel like it, but it's because you're almost overworking yourself. So definitely being
Yeah.
patient, eh, gracious with yourself, I should say.
The The funny thing you said there, a lot of people will say that about like a week of training or something. They'll say like, "Oh, I just feel like it's been so bad," or like I've had a few bad days in a row. But oftentimes, those worst days in training come shortly after some of their best training sessions. So like you might have had, like you said, a really good tempo session or something, and then your body's just drained and depleted, and they've kept running, and like then your long run 2 or 3 days later isn't that great, and you're like, "Oh, man, things aren't going well." But it's like, "No, no, earlier in the week, you had the best tempo run or, like, the best intervals that you've ever done before, and your body's just tired, man." So, like, a good title for this episode might end up being "Consistency and Grace" because they go hand in hand.
Mhm.
You've gotta give yourself some
Yeah,
grace with this stuff, and if that means one day that you're supposed to go to the gym, you go to the gym and you stretch for 10 minutes, and then you come back home. You still went, you still
yeah,
did the thing, you get to check
mhm,
off the box, but you listened to your body and you stretched instead of pushing it farther, and that's okay. But you went. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, consistency and grace, they go hand in hand.
Yeah. True. And like, I don't know about you, Ryan, but every time that I go into a race or into a long, long, long run, like when we did the run red, you feel, I've never gone into a race and felt like, man, I've done everything I could. Like I feel so ready. There's always like that little bit of like, man, I wish I would have pushed a little bit harder here. I wish I would have done this a little bit more, whatever. There's this that even though you've trained your butt off, there's still that little bit of like, man, I shoulda, woulda, coulda start popping up. But then you go into your taper week and you give your body rest, you hydrate, you eat well. You're still kind of moving, but you're not really pounding the pavement or the trail quite the same. And then you get on the start line and then you run the race and you get done and you look back and you're like, wow, I kind of surprised myself. Like on race day, you want to be prepared to like put in your 100% effort, but then you almost surprise yourself and you're like, well, I guess what I did work because every race that I've
Mhm.
done or run, I've either felt better or I've had a faster time. So it's like, okay, what I'm doing is working. It just takes time. And so that's like a common
It's
theme
funny,
I'm noticing.
I get that feeling at the beginning of a race, like, I'll start running and, like, within the first 1 or 2 miles, I'm like, "Gosh, I shouldn't have ate that dinner last night," or like, "I should have rested more this week," or, like, something. Normally, it's I should have slept more the night before because I don't sleep well the night before a race. But, like, for the first couple miles, I'm just, like, beating myself up, and then by mile 5, I've forgotten all about that, and, like, the rest of the race goes wonderfully, and I look back and I'm like, "Why was I stressing at the beginning?" Like, I
Yeah.
didn't trust that everything I had done was gonna work, or I just, you just amped up probably at the beginning of a race, and all the nerves and everything are flowing, but, yeah, that's funny. That's a good thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I listen
Um,
to some of these like elites, and they think that they're like, I'm so ready for this race. I am locked. Maybe they're just talking to themselves and like in front of a camera, and they're just like trying to put on a show. But I think it's
you have
normal.
to
I think
believe you
if we
can.
put them in yeah, but I do think that they've mastered that aspect of it. But if you like put them in like a closed room with no cameras, no recording devices, all right, be real with me. Were you really, or was there any sort of hesitation or reservation? They would have something. They would have something. So that just goes to show about just the mental part of it of believe that
Yeah,
you can and then sell it to yourself that you can because if you can sell it to yourself,
yeah.
you're more likely to succeed.
I think everybody hears those little voices of doubt and, insecurity, I guess, like that you're not enough, that you can't do it, but I think the difference in the elites and regular people, a big part of the difference is that they can shut that little voice up and say, "No, like, enough with you, duct tape over the mouth. We're gonna go do this thing that we know we've trained for and can do."
Yeah.
Um, how does
Hmm.
this translate more so to somebody like trying to get promoted for a job or, like we said earlier, buy their first house? You know,
Yeah.
consistent actions in those departments look a little different. Maybe it's showing up to work on time every day. I mean, that'd be a good way to
Hmm.
start trying to get promoted. You show up on time, you do what you need to do, but you feel like you're getting overlooked or something for this promotion constantly.
Hmm. Yeah. So, one thing that was kind of coached into me and that I've started doing is, one, I start writing more stuff down so that I don't feel quite as bombarded with the day to day of like overwhelmingness of like, this needs to happen, right? But like all these things, I got all these things I got to get done. And when I write them down, it organizes my thoughts better. But it's setting up like a pipeline. So you have a really you start with like a year and you break that year down. Well, really, you start with like a 5-year goal, whatever that is. So, like, let's say for me, it would be in 3 years, I want to make lieutenant, and then down from that, you're going to break down, the next 3 years, like high level, and then you're going to break down the next year, and then that year you're going to have quarterly goals. So don't give yourself like, well, I have to get all these things done by the end of the month. That's silly because now you're not being present and consistent with what you're doing. So I have 3 classes remaining that I have to do. One of them is building construction. So I have to take that class. Once I take that class, that's done. and then I have a month to save for the next class, and then it will be fire officer one. Then I have to take that one, and then so now I'm slowly working through my quarterly goals that need to get done over the course of a year, and then at the end of the year, I know that this year's goal for the 3-year goal of making lieutenant, those are all checked off, and now we are actually gaining some momentum. But if we just look at a goal of, say, a promotion in this example, if we're just looking at a goal that's 3 years out, we'll be like, "Oh, man, that's 3 years out, we'll be alright." Well, then the time goes by because you haven't prioritized it, and now you're a year out, and now you've missed an opportunity because you didn't strategize or prioritize that. And that goes for anything or everything, is just breaking that goal down into smaller goals. Okay, so I want to make lieutenant. What do I need to do to get there? And once I get there, what are the steps? Now we're going to write those steps down. Now I'm going to break those steps down into an actual timeline so that we can accomplish the overall goal. So that's kind of the methodology that I've adopted. So
In business, we have vision statements and then mission statements, and then you set goals based off of that stuff. But it's the same principle of what you were just saying, where you create that vision. What does the finish line look like to you? And then you start backtracking and, okay, well, how do I reverse engineer this to get to that point? And
Mhm.
writing them down is necessary. You're going to have to have some kind of benchmarks, and then you're going to have to track it. That which is measured improves, and so you've got to measure it and track it throughout. Otherwise, you're just floating in the wind. You're just drifting. Um, so I love that concept of writing stuff down and, having a goal that you're actively pursuing for this week or this day even, and it's going to ultimately grow and snowball into checking off that monthly goal or that quarterly thing and so on. Uh, One thing that I love to do too, as far as writing things down, is writing down my wins. Like you said earlier about
Mhm.
like getting little wins. Like at the end of the day, write down the things that went right, like one or two things that went right, then write something that you can improve on. But you write down what went right first. Because when you're
Yeah.
sad and you're sulking and you're like, man, my training's been bad, or somebody else got promoted again and I haven't. Okay, some things are outside of your control or circumstances that are not up to you. So, what can you control? And what did you do right with those things that you can't control? Writing
Mhm.
those down is going to be a huge positive boost for you now and later. You can look back on those and be like, man, look at all these things that I did that got me to this point.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Yeah, and I mean, that all ties into being consistent, being present, being intentional, and being able to um, prioritize whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, and then just going after the thing and just getting it done. I think it's helped me a lot, and I'll give credit where credit's due. A lot of these concepts I was not good at all earlier on in my life. I'm still trying to get better at them. But through Jeremy with software and consulting and the coaching he's done with me, this is something that he's actually created a whole planner for and has really developed and implemented it into his life. And through that, I've just kind of adopted it loosely, not his exact planner, but I'm like, this works. This is great. Um, but yeah, that's great, Ryan. Like not necessarily writing down your to-do list or your honey-do list, but also writing down your victories or your wins, so you can go back and look like, okay, I have accomplished a lot this week, or I have accomplished a lot this quarter, month, year, whatever. Um, because oftentimes when we check things off like as done in our brain, we're kind of like throwing it into the recycling bin. And when it goes in
Yeah.
the recycling bin, I don't know when the last time you emptied your recycling bin on your computer, but it gets pretty full pretty fast because we're constantly deleting stuff. So, but if you can go back and open up the trash can, you look like, wow, I have actually done a lot. And it does compound. So um,
Yeah.
open them up and read them every once in a while.
I never used to understand why people that were like really into the gym would write down, what their exercises were or what they lifted today. And as I
Hmm.
got older, I finally understood that that's what it is. So they can go back and see, like, look, 2 years ago, I was benching 185. And then a year ago, I was benching 205. And now I'm benching 225 or whatever it is. And it's like,
Yeah,
they
right.
can anytime they feel like they're not progressing or like this is all pointless and worthless, they can just open their little book and like, oh, look at that. I've come so far because we all know it,
Yep.
but
Mhm.
reading it and seeing it, especially when you wrote it down in your own handwriting, you're like, no, this is me. This is where I was. And being able to read that like back to yourself is just such a positive thing, like such a big boost of confidence that you can't get
Yep.
by just remembering it or trying to remember it. Because your brain plays tricks on you. You'll be like, no, I didn't do that. I was never that good or never that bad. We have a tendency of thinking that we're hot stuff once we do something, and so it's sometimes hard for us to remember back like where we started. You think
Yep.
about
That's true.
people really far in business that have climbed the ladder and they tend to forget the guy at the bottom. It's like you were once that guy. You got to remember. You got to remind yourself, and a great way to do that is by that little book.
Yep. It's true. And I had a conversation with a guy at church the other day. I was asking him like, "Hey, how's the fishing been?" And he was talking about like it's been a weird year this year and going into all the nuances with fishing. But then he said he was on the lake and couldn't figure out where like what the fish were doing because he like the water temperatures were different and off and all this stuff. He's talking about wind direction. He's talking about thermal layer, like all this stuff with fishing that I know exists, but like don't fully understand it. He called his wife and said, "Hey, can you go to my journal and look back at this month, this week of last year, and tell me what it says?"
Uh,
And she read it to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I did that last year, and it worked. I'm gonna go over there." Well, then he went over there, changed his depth, changed his lure, changed everything, and then immediately started catching fish. And that I think
Look at
really
that.
sets people up between or sets them up for success between like I'd say like expert level and like mastery level. Somebody that documents their progress, their successes, and
Yeah,
their bad days. Because he could also look back in his journal and say, well, for the last 5 years, this has just been a cruddy week. Like, it's just not a good week
yeah,
to be on the lake. Well, okay, well, that's consistent to what everything else has been. And I thought that was like really cool that he kept log of all of his fishing and all
that
the
is cool.
places he went, GPS coordinates, wind, temperatures, all that stuff was written down. And I'm like, that really sets you apart for sure.
Yeah. In the military, like snipers have their dope cards or dope sheets, and that's just their data from how a bullet landed, basically at certain distances with the rifle and scope that you've got on there. And based on that, you can dial into certain things at certain distances just based on that data. So having that data is the first step, though. You've got to go out and practice and figure out what the baseline is and write it all down and figure out what's happening consistently out of your rifle. And then, when the time comes, you can look back on that consistency and go, okay, well, this is what's going to happen now if I dial in this and hold here and
Yeah.
shoot. Um, so, yeah, that applies in a lot of different areas. That came to mind. And also, like McDonald's, I mean, they make the same burger every single time you order a Big Mac. How do they do that? It's because they've written down their processes and their procedures and they can be consistent with it every single time, whether you're making a burger or I'm making a burger or somebody else is doing it. They all follow the same procedures and steps and do it consistently every single time over 30 years, 40 years. I don't know how long McDonald's has been around, a long time.
Yeah. Hmm. It's true. I mean, yeah, and like when I have as a customer come up and I want a Big Mac, I have an expectation in my head. It better be that Big Mac that I want, because
Yeah,
I don't get them hardly ever. But when I do, I want it to be the one I remembered the last time I had one. So
that's right. But
that's
how
good.
many times in our lives do we act like that customer, but not act like the employee? Like we've got these big
Yeah.
expectations of ourselves, but we don't
Hmm.
have the expectations of the employee that we're going to follow the rules, follow the procedures, and do it consistently. We're like, I'm going to try something
Yeah.
new today, but I'm still expecting the same result. No,
Yeah.
man, you're setting
Yep.
yourself up for failure.
Yeah. It's true. And how many people are actually setting up procedures and rules in their own lives? I think we can all say that we could all be better at that, of just being consistent, but also setting rules and parameters within our lives. Like, I'm not going to go there because that's going to set me up for failure. I'm not going to incorporate myself in this social group because it's going to lead to XYZ consequences. No, we just kind of just a lot of times we're just floating and we're not being consistent and diligent with our own rules and our own procedures of like, I am not going to do this, and this is the reason why. And having those convictions to really shape your life. And that you can apply that anywhere. And I think that it's applicable to say that you can apply that to any one of our three pillars of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Like if you don't have rules in place for your physical, you're going to fail. If you don't have rules in place for your mental, you're going to fail. And same for spiritual. So all these can really tie in really well with what we try to do here at Suffer Up.
Yep, 100%. So, um, I think two big takeaways for today for our listeners would be write stuff down, guys. Write down your plans, your goals, write down your procedures if you are gonna not necessarily procedures like you're making a Big Mac, but your rules that you're gonna follow. Like Nate was just saying, like, you're not gonna associate with these people, or you're gonna get yourself in bed every night by 11 o'clock or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
set some rules for yourself, follow them and be consistent with it, and write down your little wins because one day you're gonna need to look back at them.
Yep. That's so true. Very good. Well, thanks so
I
much, guys,
also
for tuning in. Go ahead.
Sorry, one more thing.
You're
You
fine.
said something about
Go for it.
drifting, and I wanted to say that if you're a man and you got that feeling like you're drifting, or you're just not really sure what you're supposed to be doing here on Earth, um, we've got something coming up that you might be really interested in. It's uh, it's gonna be awesome. Nate, you want to tell them what that is?
Yeah. So we just launched, when you're listening to this, it will have been a couple weeks now, but we launched the application window for our new and exciting course that we are offering called Unbreakable Purpose, where we are going to be hand selecting 16 men to come and spend 24 hours with us. And this is like a wilderness crucible type deal where we're going to run you guys through team building evolutions, and some physical, mental, and spiritual challenges for men, men only. Sorry, ladies. We've got some guest speakers lined up, and it is going to be an awesome time of not only fellowship, but also team building and just camaraderie and just trying to really build up ourselves and try to find that purpose in your life that can be unbreakable if you allow the molding process to happen. So, we're really excited about it. Application window is open now, and you can go over to the link. I'll have it in the description of this podcast, or it's also in our link tree. Fill that out by the date we set for that was, I believe, August 8th. Um, and yep, August 8th. And so you can have all of that in by then. And then we will get back with you as far as whether you've been selected. If you're not selected, not a big deal because we're going to have multiple classes, hopefully, throughout the years to come. And so you'll be put on a wait list, and I'm sure we'll have people that can't attend or whatever. So just put your application in if you're remotely interested. It's going to be awesome. And we're
Yeah.
really excited about it.
And don't be alarmed. And then they said that physical testing and like, uh, it's not going to be that intense, guys. We're not asking y'all to run 50 miles or anything like that. The physical aspect of this really just consists of um, long walks or hikes and like tug of war type things. I mean, it's nothing crazy. We're not doing push up competitions or anything like that. Even it's more so just to get you moving
Yep.
and a little bit of fun
Moving,
team building stuff.
yes. Moving with team. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Imagine some physicalness that involves team building. And if you work together as a team, there's less work to do. So it, it all makes sense, and everything will have a purpose since it's also tied into the name there.
Oddly
So
enough, yeah,
oddly enough. So everything mundane from the application process all the way down to the 24 hours, everything will have a purpose behind it. It won't just be silly nonsense. So we're really excited about it. So
yeah.
yes.
So if you feel like you're drifting, men, please apply.
Yes, please do. Please do. Even if you're remotely interested, we'd love to review your application. So also on that note too, we've got hats for sale. So check them out too on the website. We can get you a Suffer Up hat. We only have a limited quantity built on the front there as well. And it says level up
Level up.
on the Velcro. So get one on your head. They're awesome. We love them. We wear them on all of our runs as well. So that's it. Anything else, Ryan?
That's it, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. The Suffer Up podcast, where our mission is to encourage and lead others to suffer with a purpose. We strive to help others level up in life with an emphasis on spiritual, mental, and physical well being. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We love y'all. And as always,
Suffer up.